If moisturizing has failed you, even when you use good products, this video is not about finding a better one. It's not about discovering some miracle ingredient you've never tried. It's not about switching to a more expensive brand or finding the perfect formulation for your skin type. Because here's the truth that most skincare advice never addresses. The reason moisturizing fails for people with extremely dry, reactive skin often has nothing to do with the products themselves. And until you understand what's really happening, you'll keep repeating the same pattern, trying, failing, blaming yourself, and starting over. Most people, when their moisturizing routine fails, make one of two assumptions. The first assumption, the product stopped working. Maybe your skin got used to it. Maybe the formulation changed. Maybe it wasn't as good as you thought. So you switch to something new, hoping this one will be different. The second assumption, you weren't disciplined enough. You must have missed too many applications. You must not have been consistent enough. You must have done something wrong. So you recommit, determined to be more careful this time. Both of these assumptions feel logical. They make sense. And they seem like they should lead to solutions. Find a better product. Be more consistent. But here's what actually happens. These assumptions quietly break your routines. Not immediately, not obviously, but gradually in ways you probably don't even notice. When you assume the product is the problem, you start second-guessing it. Every time your skin feels uncomfortable, you wonder if this is the wrong moisturizer. You start looking for alternatives. You lose confidence in what you're doing. And that doubt makes it harder to commit to any routine fully. When you assume you're not disciplined enough, you start treating your routine like a moral failing. You feel guilty when you miss an application. You feel frustrated with yourself when your skin isn't improving. And that emotional weight makes the routine feel like a burden instead of something supportive. So the very assumptions that seem like they should help you fix the problem actually make it harder to maintain any routine at all. Moisturizing doesn't fail all at once. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment where you wake up and your skin is suddenly back to where it started. It fails in small, invisible ways. Ways that seem insignificant at the time. Ways you might not even remember when you're trying to figure out what went wrong. It starts with hesitation. You reach for your moisturizer in the morning, but you're running a few minutes late. You pause. You think, I'll do it when I get home. Or, just this once won't matter. Or, my skin feels okay today anyway. That moment of hesitation, that's the first crack. Not because you skipped once, but because you introduced the idea that skipping is an option. Then comes the actual skipping. Maybe you really were too rushed. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you were too tired at night. Whatever the reason, you miss an application. And because your skin doesn't immediately feel worse, it reinforces the idea that missing once doesn't matter that much. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. When you have extremely dry, reactive skin, even a single missed application affects your skin's moisture balance. Not catastrophically, not noticeably at first, but it starts a small decline that takes multiple consistent applications to reverse. And because you don't feel that immediate effect, skipping starts to feel safer. The gap between I should moisturize and I'll do it later gets wider. One skipped application becomes two becomes three. Before you realize it, you're moisturizing occasionally instead of consistently. Then comes the switching. Your skin starts feeling uncomfortable again. But instead of recognizing that the inconsistency is the issue, you assume the product isn't working anymore. So you try something new. And for a little while, the new product seems to help. Because you're paying attention again. You're being consistent again. You're recommitted. But you're attributing the improvement to the product change, not to the behavior change. Which means the same pattern can repeat. Hesitation creeps back in. Skipping happens. Consistency erodes. Your skin feels uncomfortable again. And you conclude once again that the product must not be working. This is how moisturizing fails. Not because the products are wrong, not because you're undisciplined, but because the routine itself becomes fragile. And fragile routines collapse under the normal pressures of everyday life. Here's what makes extremely dry, reactive skin different. When your skin is uncomfortable, consistency becomes fragile. Most skincare advice treats consistency as if it's just a matter of discipline. As if the only thing standing between you and clear, comfortable skin is your willpower. As if you just need to stick with it and everything will work out. But that completely misses what it's actually like to live with skin that feels uncomfortable every single day. When your skin is constantly sending you signals of discomfort, everything becomes harder. Getting ready in the morning takes longer because you're trying to be gentle. Your evening routine becomes something you dread because you're tired and your skin is irritated. Simple things like washing your face or applying moisturizer can feel uncomfortable or even painful. And because you're dealing with that discomfort constantly, your mental and emotional resources are already depleted. You don't have extra bandwidth to maintain perfect routines. You're just trying to get through the day. So when life adds normal pressures, you're running late, you're exhausted, you're stressed, you're traveling, you're dealing with something difficult, your skincare routine is one of the first things that slips. Not because you don't care, but because you only have so much capacity and something has to give. This is what fragile consistency looks like. It's not about being undisciplined. It's about trying to maintain a demanding routine while dealing with ongoing discomfort and all the other demands of your life. And here's what makes this even more challenging. Extremely dry, reactive skin doesn't tolerate inconsistency well. The kind of mostly consistent routine that might work fine for someone with normal skin isn't enough. Your skin needs sustained, reliable support to maintain any improvement, which means you're caught in an impossible situation. Your skin requires a level of consistency that's genuinely difficult to maintain when you're dealing with constant discomfort. But when you can't maintain that consistency, your skin stays uncomfortable, which makes consistency even harder. And fragile routines, routines that depend on perfect conditions and perfect execution, collapse easily. Not because you're failing, but because they were never built to withstand real life. So when skincare experts tell you to just be consistent, they're not wrong. Consistency does matter. But they're skipping over the part where they acknowledge how extraordinarily difficult consistent skincare actually is when your skin feels uncomfortable all the time. So the reason moisturizing keeps failing has nothing to do with ingredients. It has nothing to do with finding the perfect product or the right formulation or the most advanced skincare technology. It has everything to do with interruption. Because every time your routine gets interrupted by hesitation, by skipping, by switching products, by normal life circumstances, you're not just missing one application. You're breaking momentum. You're introducing gaps that extremely dry, reactive skin struggles to recover from. You're making it harder to get back on track. And when interruptions happen frequently enough, you never build the sustained consistency that your skin actually needs. You're constantly starting over, never quite achieving the stable routine that would allow real, lasting improvement. This is why people with extremely dry, reactive skin can go through dozens of products and still struggle. Not because the products are wrong, but because no product can overcome a routine that's constantly being interrupted. But here's where this gets interesting. Understanding interruption doesn't solve the problem. Because knowing that consistency matters doesn't automatically make consistency easier. Recognizing that skipping creates issues doesn't prevent the life circumstances that cause skipping. What you need is something deeper. You need to understand what makes routines resilient instead of fragile. You need to recognize the specific patterns that lead to interruption. You need to see the hidden forces that undermine consistency even when you're trying your best. And most importantly, you need to understand what happens when your skin starts to improve. Because that's when the most counterintuitive pattern emerges. A pattern that catches almost everyone off guard. A pattern that explains why routines often collapse right when they should be getting easier. You might think that once your skin starts feeling better, maintaining your routine would become easier. That once you experience relief, you'd be more motivated to keep going. That improvement would reinforce consistency. But for most people, the opposite happens. When your skin improves, something subtle shifts. The urgency fades. The discomfort that was constantly reminding you to moisturize starts to quiet. And gradually, without even realizing it, the routine that was working begins to slip. This is one of the most common and most frustrating patterns in skincare. It's the reason why people can do everything right, see real improvement, and then find themselves back at square one a few weeks later. And until you understand why this pattern repeats, you'll keep experiencing it. You'll keep wondering why your results never last. You'll keep feeling like there's something you're missing. In the next video, I'll explain exactly why this pattern repeats even when your skin improves. Why getting better can actually make your routine more vulnerable. And what you need to understand to break this cycle once and for all.